Okay, call the May 11th workshop meeting to order. Would you stand for the pledge of the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christina, would you do the roll? Yes.
Allen. Here. Councilman Paddock.
Here.
Councilwoman Speesa. Here. Supervisor Baden.
Here. Gonna ask for the acceptance of the agenda. We're gonna make two changes. One is the executive session move to the end of the meeting. And the second is I want to add a brief discussion on the planning and zoning secretary position, just to get a little feedback from you guys. So we will start first.
Well, I'll make that one.
Oh, thank you. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Thank you, Aaron. Events reminder, Memorial Day, May 29th, parade starting at 1 p.m. from Town Hall, going down Scenic Road to Main Street to the firehouse. We will be doing a Rochester ceremony at the Veterans Park at noon. And if any of the board members or anybody from the public have knowledge of someone who has a flatbed truck, we have a ukulele band of about 12 to 15 members who would like to participate, but they can't really walk and play their ukuleles very easily. So I'm trying to help them find a flatbed truck that they can ride on the back of.
That's a lot of ukuleles.
That's a lot of ukuleles. They are very
That's more
excited and want to participate, and I said I would try my best to find somebody that has a truck that they can ride on the back of. So if you know of anybody who has a truck of that kind of size with a flatbed, needs to kind of be like a tow truck,
Right.
kind of flatbed
Yeah.
or something along those lines,
Right.
or a wagon,
Yeah, I
a
was,
hay wagon.
we might, yeah,
Yeah,
hay wagon might be.
might be a little small, but might work too. Anyway, also, reminder that the audit meeting, normally on the last Thursday of the month, is moved to the 24th due to a conflict with grievance day. Our grievance day is always the last Thursday in May. So our meeting will be on the Wednesday, the 24th. And we also have a public hearing at 6 p.m. that night on the Granary Economic Enterprise Overlay Zoning Change Request.
I
I have a job now.
won't be there for that,
I'll see if I can.
but I may land around that time, so I could buy
Okay.
it.
Understood.
It's in LaGuardia, so.
I will try to rearrange my schedule. So I
But
can
you two are here, right? So we will have a quorum. Okay.
The date.
The
24th?
24th, it's a Wednesday.
It's a day earlier than normal. Okay, Charlotte, you just asked that you want to do an update on the health care event?
Yeah, so we have it confirmed. I just wanted to, before I officially fully announce it, I confirmed it with Ashley and Bethany that we're available. So it'll be June 15th from 12:30 to, we're gonna say about an hour. If it goes over to 2, we're definitely gonna be done by 2 for the after school program, but it's gonna be like a coffee hour and an elder resource session go in conjunction with Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So Rich is gonna come down with a lot of information he has from Office of the Aging and then our elder care program, and My Pantry is gonna have forms available and information for us. And then I'm also gonna ask the town of Rochester Pantry for the flyer that they had sent out to people in the elder care program also. So we're gonna have coffee, tea, and then tray of cookies or something like that, Danishes or something, and just have a little chat and let people know their resources for our seniors in town.
Great.
Also wear purple that day in support for elder use awareness.
You said 15th at 12:30.
The 15th at 12:30. Yeah, we're hoping to get it right at the tail end of yoga and hoping some of our seniors will stick around to learn about some stuff afterwards. And next year, we're hoping to maybe do an actual senior luncheon in conjunction with it to have like a little more time planned so that we can get a nice turnout, so people know the resources.
Okay. Moving on to discussion items. The first is the local law that is unnamed at the moment, providing for a moratorium of action subject to building permits, site plans, special use permits, or subdivision review for the period June 5th, 2023 to October 1st. We received comments. The town planning board had no comment. The county planning board did have a required mod, which we have achieved. It says, for the purpose of transparency, the UCPD recommends that as part of any potential extension, the town share documents with the general public as well as the UCPD as part of a referral that shows the documented progress the town has made towards adopting updates to the town zoning statute and subdivision land statute. We've done that through the process of having all these public hearings. So we have achieved that. The second is an advisory comment. I wanted to discuss it with the board. They do recommend we expand it to consider development or redevelopment within the hamlet areas. And also the zoning change for the EEO district is exempt. We already are doing that. They recommend that development review in those districts as part of such zoning change should also be deemed to be exempt from the proposed moratorium. They also recommend in any proposals for housing with a set aside of 20% or more units as affordable, allowed to proceed as an exempt use. The reason I wanted to talk about it tonight, if we want to add any of those into the code, we can add them in tonight. I can then draft the new code. It is not substantial change, so we would not have to reopen the public hearing, but then we could vote on this on June 1st, which is my hope. So I had no issue with the 20% or more affordable units. I think it's a great suggestion. We would add that into the code under the
exemptions.
yeah. There is no exemption list in this because it's an extension. What I would do is I would check with Mary Lou how to word that. And you know, if the board, we can just have a discussion. If the board wants to add those things, that any development, we would accept any applications in the hamlet area for development or redevelopment, and we would exempt any proposals that have for housing that would set aside 20% more affordable units.
I'm personally fine with both of those. I think we should for the housing that would have units, just so no one gets too delayed, that a developer doesn't get turned away or shied away from the moratorium continuing.
Any other thoughts? If not,
I mean, my only thought is like, I don't know, that would be something that would be subject to site plan approval or special use permit. So it would be like a housing development of
right.
how many units is it?
Well, they're saying proposals for housing with a set aside of 20% or more for affordable. So only if the proposal has 20% or more of the total number of units listed as affordable, would it be able to proceed?
Capital
So
A.
it wouldn't have to be multifamily. It could be a subdivision. It could be a multifamily site plan or special use.
Yeah. And it's capital A affordable.
Yeah, the affordable is defined within our code, and I don't remember it off the top of my head, but what is it? It's 80 to 120%?
It's 80 to 120%.
Of the AMI,
Yeah.
which is the median income.
I just don't have like a handle on our code changes anymore to know.
I'll be very honest, I don't expect we're gonna get
I know
one.
that's what I guess for me, I'm like, we've never had like a project like that before, sadly. Yeah, which
And that was
would
coming in as an email.
So I guess I'm fine with the 20% affordable housing, but I think the Hamlet one I might want to leave off just because,
I would agree with that. It's a little vague.
yeah. And we have a major development project going on already, like that we're able to consider.
Somebody feel to the point they want to make a motion to authorize me to amend the code to add the affordable housing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. So the motion then would be to authorize the supervisor to add an exemption for any proposals for housing with a set aside of 20% or more of units as affordable. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay. So I will get with Mary Lou, figure out how we add that in, whether it's just another section. I will then email you guys all the new version of the law, as long as you have it 7 days excluding Sunday, which is the wording of the language in the law. Prior to the vote, then you can vote. We can vote on it. So I plan to put this on the agenda to vote June 1st, so it can then take effect. On the Great. Okay. Next, we need to do section B of that local law discussion. And this is the recommended resolution. The Town of Rochester Town Board designates local law blank of 2023, a local law providing for a moratorium on actions subject to building permits, site plan, special use permits, and subdivision review for the period of June 5th, 2023 through October 1st, 2023 as local law 6 of 2023. I have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay. That is the next local law for the year. So this is now.
Oh, yeah,
known
yeah,
as
sorry,
Local Law 6. With the changes that I'll make that exception. And next, we need to do seeker on this. So the resolution is the Town of Rochester Town Board determines local law 6 of 2023 will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and should be classified as a type 2 action under 6 NYCRR Part 617 criteria 617.5 C36. Adoption of a moratorium on land development or construction. No further seeker review is required.
I'll make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
And that is straight out of the language of the code. That's a roll call vote, Christina.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen,
Aye.
Councilman Paddock,
Aye.
Councilwoman Smiseth,
Aye.
Supervisor Baden.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to setting dates for special town board meeting. Before we pick dates, I have a proposal to sort of throw out. I sort of looked ahead. We basically, to get this done by October 1st, we need to be done with it by the end of August to get it to the county for their review in September, to get our public hearings done, to get the town planning board's comments back. Just looking ahead, we've been through everything once now. The subdivision code, we're 99% there. There's a couple little things we need to tweak. That's basically done. The zoning, we've gotten all these comments back. We had planned to just do some long meetings. I know summer is hard. I'm going to throw out a proposal that we create a subcommittee of myself and one other person to review all those comments, come back to you guys with a draft. And if you don't like the idea, that's fine. I personally think we need about 30 hours of work as a group to get it done. If we do it as a group, if two of us meet, it's going to go a little quicker. It's not to take anybody out of the process. I don't care who the second person is. I only suggest me because I've been like the holder of all the documents. It's just a thought.
I was actually gonna suggest something similar, that like, we have a couple of subcommittees
Okay,
that split it up and work in pairs, and then,
okay.
like, that was one I did,
So,
I had.
I
two,
would
don't know.
say we do that the end of June, so the next 6 to 8 weeks, we work on that. Then we have a couple meetings instead of 5 meetings where we do some long hours, and because we have to totally do zoning. We have to do the schedule of use, and we have to do the map. And there's a lot of work to do yet. I'm open, Aaron's idea is fine too. I didn't know what people's time schedules were. I just, knew when we tried to find a day at the last meeting, it was almost impossible. And so I have a feeling that's going to become more the norm over the summer. However you want to do it. Anybody got any other thoughts?
I don't understand. I think. So these subcommittees would discuss and then bring recommendations and
They would
then,
discuss the comments and make changes to the comments based on to the code based on the comments, then bring that back to the full board. It just sort of is a little bit of
yeah, because we're still gonna have to go through the code.
we're still gonna have to go through the code. Yeah, exactly. But I think it'll make it go faster if, and if it's 2 subcommittees, I'm okay with that too, however you want to do it. I didn't know people's timeframes.
I don't think it'll make it go faster, but I don't have a problem with that. I prefer to have multiple subcommittees.
Okay, I'm okay with multiple subcommittees.
But I still think we're gonna have discussion and debate.
Oh, absolutely we are. Absolutely we are. But I think it was, some of the comments that came back from the county are pretty boilerplate and can be plunked in. The way I've started, and I'm about of compiling it all, and I'm about a third of the way through the code. But all I'm doing now is taking all the sections from the public hearing and putting them in the wording that we presented to the public hearing. And then there'll be a stack of comments that came in the order of the code, and we'll just, as we get to a section where there were comments, we want to address it. And then, or if we get to a section where we have our own comment, I mean, we're not limited just to where we got comment on, there are things where we may want to have input on because we kind of took the code task force version, which took the original task force version, and then we reviewed it and got rid of some things and added some things here and there. And then we sent it off for public hearings, and we got a whole nother set of comments back based on those public hearings. So now it's a matter of taking those, like, for example, the sign section. The county's recommendation is that we almost throw out what we have and we look at what the city of Kingston, that's a significant change.
Right.
The kennel section, they didn't like what we did. They said, look at the town of Gardner section. So it's almost like we're starting from scratch on some of those. The animal section, I know
Yeah.
we all have a lot of ideas
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what was making me think about it. I was like, oh, because I kind of had this idea too. I was like, well, if like a couple of us got together and worked on a few of the ones that we felt really like had a lot of energy for, maybe that would make it go easier, and then we could present to the board and like focus the conversation a little bit.
I would make one request, if we split up, that you and I are on different subcommittees, only because we both have been sort of, and I know you were as well, but we were both very intimately involved. I've been on both the committees leading up to it. And I've been sort of the organizer of the whole thing to some degree. And you were kind of the organizer of the task force. So it's probably better if we're on opposite committees.
Yeah, unless no one else wants to do it, and then it's me and you.
Well, and that's, yeah. And I certainly wasn't trying to put more work on Aaron or on anybody, but I think if it's kind of what the town board did back in like 2013 is Councilman Drabkin and Councilwoman Chachkin took the recommendations from the planning board and met with Mary Lou and came back with a set, and then the whole town board went through the whole recommendations. But it was kind of already got first pass because they had sort of discussed and debated, and they could, when they presented it, they could say, this is why we did what we did. You know, and to me, I think it will shorten the time at least a little bit. I don't know if it'll shorten it a lot, but so. But once we start down that road, because by the end of August, we got to have a finished code and a finished map and a finished, well, ready for public hearing. I mean, we can certainly tweak it after that, but,
Yeah.
and I think we can. It's going to be a lot of work, but I think we can.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm down for this idea. I don't know what.
I also thought getting 2 people together is a lot easier to try to get 5 people together at the same time.
Yeah.
That was the bigger thought process that initiated this in my head, is getting 5 people with the same schedule is getting 2 is so much easier. So 2 groups of 2 would be fine with me, or
I was
unfortunately,
thinking-
we can't do a group of 3.
Well, the other way we could do it is like, okay with this, you and I could look at the list together and kind of pick the ones that we feel most comfortable taking the lead on, and then we could coordinate individually and see
I'm okay with
the
that too.
different chapters.
And certainly you guys can feed us, you know, if you've got, because I know Charlotte, you said you had a number of affordable housing suggestions, and now that I've sort of, you know, gone to some of these classes too, I've got a few ideas of how we can rewrite some sections and make some changes on that to really, you know, put some real initiatives into the code, some real bonuses. And the county, I know, will love it. They're not gonna complain about
Yeah,
any
they're not gonna.
affordable housing initiatives or housing in general. So,
Yeah, I will say for me, the rest of this month is really crazy for me, so I'm happy to do like a chapter or 2 and help out, but I can't commit a ton of time if we want this done by June I don't think I'd do my due diligence if I tried to take this on.
Okay.
With how much I have going on for the next 3 weeks.
But you could do a couple.
But yeah, I can do it, like if you send me I can plug and play the comments into if you guys send me a chapter or 2 of the smaller ones, I can definitely do that.
another way we could do it is each of us to take our own set of chapters, but I thought 2 people working together is a better way to do it than an individual, because you play off each other and you kick around ideas, argue. Well, and that's okay. Debate.
I would argue.
You're just that way.
Yeah, you know, so my dilemma is I'm going to want to be involved in the process.
Mhm.
And I feel like we're still gonna have to go through the process of
Mhm.
doing longer. So it seems like it's more of a time investment, which is fine. That may be fine, but I also, you know, I can meet during the week a lot easier than like a Saturday.
Okay,
So that's another
well,
option.
we can go to the week, but if we're gonna do a 5-hour session, we're gonna go from 6 to 11 o'clock at night, which I know is a regular board meeting for us sometimes.
But I'm fine with this solution.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of work, but it has been a lot of work. So.
It's been a lot of work, but
Yeah, I think that-
it's so close. It's
Right,
right there.
The only evening I could do is Tuesday. Like if we were to do that, like,
And that's the only.
And that's
thing
the
I
only-
Absolutely cannot.
yeah.
do.
because I'm
Unless we
you
wanna
know,
be.
I do want to be.
That'll be
here.
bad.
Well, and the other thing is too, I mean, if all 5 of us aren't here, it's not a problem. And it doesn't even matter if we have a quorum or not. I mean, if we don't have a quorum, we can do that too. So,
Could I technically, like, if you guys did a Tuesday, could I zoom in to make comments for you guys?
not if it was 2 other board members.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
If you
That's
zoomed
what I
in with,
thought.
if you zoomed in with 1 other board member,
Mhm.
it would be fine. As soon as there's 3 board members, now it's an advertised meeting because it
You are
clearly,
conducting business.
we're conducting town business.
Even if we don't vote, you're still conducting business. Well, what do people think? Should we try and schedule a long midweek
You want to
sessions
look at that
together?
first?
Or should we do this like breakout and then we sort of each, like the people that work on them would kind of present that to the board instead of going through it line by line?
My schedule's flexible, but it's also week to week. So, but I don't have a day specifically I can't be here, but if we pick one, I can tell you if I'm available or not. And sometimes the day, the evening, the weekends,
Well-
tell me what day you guys are looking for. I'll be here.
You want to try that first and see if we can find a date that at least 4 of us could be here, if not all 5, and then start from there. And if we try this for a couple of weeks and we go, oh, this isn't really going to work, then we can find the other idea.
Why 4?
Well, I'm just saying,
3 or
I'm saying only if,
we can get a quorum.
yeah.
I mean, I can definitely, if Tuesday's the only day Aaron's available, I can definitely do a couple hours. I just couldn't do a full 5
Okay.
hours.
What about the 23rd of May?
No.
No?
Oh, yeah, you're out of town.
Only on the 24th.
What about the 30th?
I was gonna say-
Oh, no, that's ECC. Well,
We meet somewhere.
I was gonna
else.
say, why don't we,
I mean, it could be public, but I mean,
we'll meet over the courthouse or something.
or no, we could also check with Rochester too, Firehouse.
Oh, yeah.
You've been talking about that one room schoolhouse meeting for a long time.
Yeah,
Rochester too said we could meet there anytime as long as it was available.
yeah. Why don't we, before I check, does the 30th work for people?
I could make that, like I said, I couldn't do a full 5 hours, but I could at least do like a solid 2 or 3 maybe.
Yes.
Adam, Michael?
I gotta go to 2 or other calendars. Hang on.
I think that will work.
That's a Tuesday. Yeah, that would work.
Or there's Wednesday, the 31st, because we're not meeting that night either, but we are meeting on the 1st. I don't know if we want back-to-back meetings.
And then I can't do Wednesdays
Okay,
or Mondays.
so Tuesday, the 30th, that sounds like it's gonna work? Okay, I think we start as early as we can, 6, 5:30. You guys have the day jobs. My day job rolls into the meeting, so.
I'm done by 4:30 on that Wednesday, I'm sorry, Tuesday.
Yeah, I could
30th?
do by like 4:30.
Aaron, I know you get done at 5.
I get done at 5, so I could
6
be,
better?
I could be here at 5:30.
Well, we'd be at
But-
Rochester too if it's available, because the ECC, unless we move that.
Yeah, it takes me 10 minutes to get here.
Tuesday, the only thing I'd have to step out on a Tuesday for 15 minutes from 6 to 6:15. I have a quick webinar that I have to be a part of, but I could be there as early as 4:45.
Well, so we want to do it at 5:30, we want to do it at 6. Okay, so that's first one. Let's see if we still feeling lucky. Let's go to June. We got the 6th. We got the 13th. I can't do the 20th, but I could do the 27th, so.
You said 5:30?
Yeah.
Do we want to keep it to a Tuesday or do we want to try to do a weekend? one?
It's up to you guys. If you want to find a weekend day that works. I only started with May because I remember the other day, none of us could find a weekend that worked in May for us, so.
Cause June I'm open on almost all of the weekends.
How
Except
do
for,
weekends
the only
look
one
for
is the
people
weekend
in
of the
June?
10th.
The 10th, you said?
Yeah, the week, the 10th and 11th.
I'm fairly open in June as well,
Um,
on weekends.
I mean, I'd rather do it during the week because weekends are weekends, but
Yeah. Well.
We get one chance to rewrite the town
yeah.
zoning code.
no, but it's the summer.
Yeah.
Michael's gonna be a town board member for the rest of his life, so he's probably gonna do
That's
it
right.
again, you know?
But
Let's see, weekends.
Here,
Let's see. 2 years. You don't know it yet, but 2 years, you're here.
I would prefer, let's see, the 24th is the best Saturday for me, otherwise.
Want to
any
look
of-
at Tuesdays?
Any of the two.
Does Tuesday work for you, Michael and Adam? Because I mean, we can do another
Yeah, I mean, my
Tuesday.
situation is similar to Adam. Something could come up. Right now, it's.
You gotta tell me what day.
Well, either the 6th, the 13th, or the 27th. I can't do the 20th, but
6th. The same thing, I get that short pop-out meeting.
that's okay.
Should we say
Do you want to do,
the 13th? Is it better to try and squish?
yeah, I was gonna say, do we even want to be really brave and try to do 2 in June?
13th is our. 13th is our off week, right?
Yes, we have a meeting on the 1st, we have a meeting on the 8th, we have a meeting on the 29th.
If we met on that Thursday at an alternate location.
The 15th? Because the ZBA is here, but we
Yeah.
can meet at the Rochester True Firehouse. It's the
Are you okay
15th.
with that, with that
I didn't
event?
do that one.
And having that event too is okay.
Oh, yeah. that's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, yeah. I'll be in a couple hours.
So
Yeah,
June 15th?
yeah. Good call, Michael.
What?
Also at 5:30?
Oops, I'm saving these to my work.
Okay, do we want to try to find another day in June? Or do we want to, July is going to get a little tougher for me, and I am picking essentially it's going to end up being 9 days.
Let's schedule a bunch of meetings.
Yeah.
I'll get to be the chair.
You want to? I'm not going to say no. In July, the 14th through the 23rd. I'm not.
Is that what the dates are? 14th through 23rd? Oh, okay. I think I have it down. So I should update that.
It's a Friday through Sunday, a week from Sunday.
It's like a normal, regular, everyday vacation, like a full. There
It's
you
a
go.
10-day vacation.
Yeah, like regular. Yeah, good for you.
Not a 2-day.
And not a 2-day wrap around the
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah,
on the
no.
weekend.
Do we maybe want to not schedule any public hearings for our audit meeting that month and squeeze?
I don't know that we'll have any, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, then
In
sign
July.
the bills quick in July and then do a couple hours of zoning. then.
Well, do we want to do that in June too? Do we want to try to do that on June 29th? That we don't have to schedule, we don't have to advertise that meeting. But we have that availability, and we also have the June 8th workshop meeting that if there's not a lot to talk about, we can talk at the workshop meeting. And
Can we come in earlier and do the bills? And that way we can start get more out of that meeting. I don't know if that
Just the
works.
time.
5:30 for the audit meeting,
Well, we can just change the time to 5:30.
knock out the bills, and then whatever time we have left, get to work.
Yeah, as long as we promise not to schedule any public hearings.
Okay, so so June 29th, we're gonna change it to 5:30.
We do the same thing this month or no?
No, we have the.
We have
grant.
the Granary Public.
And that's-
So we don't want to do this.
Yeah. That's fine.
Um,
Try. Share.
And bear in mind, like I said, the June 8th, we already have scheduled for a workshop, and if there's not a lot of things on the agenda, we can certainly. knock
Yeah, that's
some
what I'm
things out
thinking
that
too,
day.
any of the workshops, that we don't have a much on.
Why don't we stop where we are, and the others, that gets us for the next 5 to 6 weeks, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. Are we
So-
just gonna start at the top of the code?
yep, that's what I was planning on doing, and start with chapter 1, page 1.
I
Anybody
find,
got any, anybody got any questions? Nope, okay. Next chapter. Anybody got any questions? Nope, okay. Let me see if I can put this all in one resolution then. I'll go ahead and make it. So Town of Rochester Town Board sets the date of May 30th at 5:30 PM. June 15th at 5:30 PM for a workshop. actually, sets the dates of May 30th and June 15th for workshop town board meetings commencing at 5:30 PM. And we will say, I'm gonna go ahead and set it Rochester 2 Firehouse.
As long as they have it. They don't.
Yeah. If it's not available, I can change the location.
Okay.
We won't advertise it until we get
Okay,
the
great.
location confirmed. We're gonna say at the Rochester 2 Firehouse. I'm just gonna say Sampsonville Road, because I don't know the number. And that's Kerhonkson there, Kerhonkson, New York.
So we're gonna meet there on the 30th and the.
May 30th, June 15th. And request the town clerk circulate notice of the meetings. So we'll do that resolution first.
Do you
So-
want the address?
Sampsonville Road is fine.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think we've already discussed it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, next motion. Town of Rochester Town Board sets the June 29th audit meeting to be held commencing at 5:30 PM at the Harold Lipton Community Center, 15 Tobacco Road, Accord, New York. Request the town clerk circulate notice of
I'll make that motion.
second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I can confirm all the dates and times with you tomorrow.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. We'll start with that and we'll see how it goes. Next. In conversations recently with the highway department, about no parking signs. And we took the laws that we have, adopted over the last several years, all the amendments we made to no parking zones. And I asked them to do a field study of how many signs we would need to purchase to get all these posted, because not all our roads have been posted because of lack of signs. Yep, it is a little bit of sticker shock. They have estimated that they are in need of 206 no parking signs. That would be to post all the roads the legal distance apart that we have designated as no parking areas. It's a sizable amount. It's, you know, if we approve this, we would need to appropriate money. This, remember, signs come out of general fund, not out of highway funds, come out of our budget. We would need to appropriate out of our fund balance, which we certainly have it. It's kind of the right thing to do. We've made these no parking areas and there's no signs up, and we made it so the constables can issue parking tickets, but if there's no sign, they can't issue a parking ticket. So we could order some now and some more next year if we wanted to split it.
Does Jeff have the labor to put in 206 signs over the course of the summer?
They'll get it done.
Yeah.
They'll get it done. They'll get it done pretty quickly. I mean, it'll take several months, but because they're doing a lot of paving projects and everything, but we got to start with getting the materials and then they'll get it done over time. The price actually is cheaper than they used to be. Signs, amazingly enough, have gone down in price. These signs used to be in the 20s. And
Those green channel posts are expensive.
yep, they are. It's because they're 10-footers.
Yeah.
So I have a question that's to do with this, but did we ever print the tickets for the constables to write in the envelopes for them to be able to write?
So that is, Rich was dealing with that. So we didn't print them, no, but we weren't it wasn't.
But they should be.
They've been authorized to do. I don't know if Rich has
Oh, okay.
followed up with.
Because I just want to make sure that we, like, if we're gonna spend this money
No,
on signs. that
We
we're
changed
definitely
the
gonna write
local
people
law
tickets for
to
these
allow,
Parking in front of them.
yeah, we changed the
Yeah.
local law to allow the constables to issue parking tickets to a
Okay.
vehicle as opposed to, you know,
To a
previously
person,
they
yeah.
had to, they could only pick a person.
Yes,
With the way we worded the local law last year.
yeah, I knew that we had approved and
It
reworked it,
gave
I
us
just
the
wasn't
ability
sure.
to ticket a vehicle. If we're obviously, it's gonna be a little while before these come in anyway. I will follow up with him and, you know.
Yeah.
What I had been told is, all I need is the approval when it can happen. So I didn't follow up to see if it did happen, but that's what I was told is. all
I just wanna
need.
make sure
Yeah.
before we spend it, it's gonna be, we have a way to enforce it with all of these signs that are.
I mean, we could defer some of it till next year if we want. We're gonna spend the money
I think
anyway.
we might as well just buy it this year. I'm fully in support of just
Well,
getting this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. Also, like, some of the ones they put up recently already got October. So it's just, they're like, you know,
Got knocked over like as in can't be put back up.
I think.
And in my understanding that they can't enforce it if we don't legally.
Correct. It has to be posted. Well, the spacing, no, they can enforce it, you know, because the arrows go different directions. But, yes, they can enforce it. We don't have to do that spacing, but it's to do, you know, I asked him to give us, I said, please do a survey of what we need to, enforce. I printed out the local law that showed them all the spaces and I gave him that. And I said, please let me know a number and get me a quote of what we need to do to make that happen. And this was the result. So if you've got further questions, I can go back and ask more questions.
I mean, we could do it every other and F this potentially.
We could, yeah. I mean, this is a quote for discussion. Do we want to do it all in 1 year? Do we want to do nothing? Do we want to do some? I mean, I could go back and say, order 75 of them, or order 100 of them now and put them where you think we want to put them right now. And
Are we getting a lot of complaints in areas that don't have any signage right now?
a few roads. And I will tell you that that's what precipitated this conversation, because there were calls into the highway department, and the secretary came to me and said, where is there no parking in this town? And I gave her the list. She said, well, there's no signs in a lot of those. And I said, I know. So that led to the discussion of, well, we need more signs. And
I'd say, that, you know, a couple of things. I mean, one, if those are designated no parking areas, they should be, there's probably a good reason, probably a safety concern of one way or another. We should probably mark them. Two is, again, if we have the ability to write tickets, it's not our intention to generate revenue by putting tickets, but it is a consequence of it. So it does defer some of this to some degree. And then, you know, and then finally, if it's the right thing to do.
So some of them are long stretches of roadways, and you know, there are no parking areas because they were a problem with people parking along them for whatever reason.
The other thing too is every month we get a constabulary report that talks about, you know, parking in dangerous places, mostly due to short-term transient rental. It's on the report every single month. This is something we would do to mitigate some of that anyway.
I mean, I think that no parking signs are effective. And then I also think that if we are creating no parking zones, we should enforce them. So,
Great.
And I think we should do them all at once, because then we know that all of our bases are covered at one time. So if there is any other issues with
Yeah.
roads that we have to add to that, it's only that road. In the future, if we do half now, half later, we might double order and order one for roads that are already done, but we didn't realize because we only ordered half. So I think we should just do them all at one time.
I mean, what we did in the past is we ordered like 40 or 50 and he put them up in the areas that were the most prevalent. But then there was one round where we did quite a few roads and we didn't order any. And we used up the stock of what he had.
What's the spacing on these?
I don't know. I can ask that question.
I mean, so we didn't budget for this. Do we wanna do half now, get the money and then just budget for it in September and then?
I mean, we have been.
We have it in fund balance. We just
Seems like
put
a lot
another
to do.
300 and some $1,000. in fund balance.
I agree that we should enforce it, but I'm just wondering if we need, like, if this is a sign every 20 feet, not only does that seem like overkill in some areas, but is it, we want to just have signs.
Well, why don't you get the answers to your questions and then we can. vote
Yeah, we
on
don't
it
have to vote on it
separately.
tonight. We
Like,
can vote.
didn't you start out by saying that this is after the field study, this was the amount of signs that they needed?
He came, I gave him the list of the no parking roads, and I said, please tell me how many signs we need to do that, and he came back. So I don't know what I'm guessing this was based on what the highway law says for distance between no parking signs. I don't know that for a fact. I asked for an inventory of what we would need to purchase. And they came back and said 206 signs. I said, great, how much is that gonna cost? And they said, please give me a quote.
Yeah.
So I didn't ask the question of, because it is the highway superintendent's job. It just, road signs are a unique thing in that they fall under traffic safety, which are not maintenance of roads, which is why we pay for traffic safety.
Right. If they're supposed to be there, they're not there.
We have adopted them
To
as,
get, that's the amount we need. I mean, we can, ask him if he could do it with less, but if he could do it with less, he probably would give us less.
well, he probably did it by the code. I mean, this is, we have put them up at greater distance in the past.
Have it?
To try to get them as far as we could.
It just gives you the idea that, oh, this is no parking, maybe enough to dissuade people from parking there.
And that's
It's a lot of money to spend on.
Yeah, except ultimately to do it. And I'm not gonna play attorney, but I can fathom that a case could be made in court if they're not the legal distance apart, that we.
That's what I was gonna
that
say.
nothing-
We could probably
nothing can be
probably
done.
writing to get constables for nothing if.
Yeah.
Cause I know, like, if you, like, I've gotten parking tickets and been like, no, the sign wasn't on this spot, and taking pictures of where my car was with the sign, so.
We had a famous one, it was a height thing, so forget distance, it was about the height of a certain sign.
It was the wrong height.
I'd be slow to question it, but again, we have the funds and fund balance, it's the right thing to do.
Well, and we have about, I didn't look, but I believe we have about 3,000 left in the budget for signs. So we would essentially be appropriating about 11 to 12,000.
Is part of that though, for the historic markers that we did last
No,
year?
that's.
They're in the budget.
They're in HPC.
Those turned out nice. Those-
Yeah, this is just road, this is just road signs, so.
Can we get a list of the roads that don't have signs that should?
Yeah, it's the local law. I mean, it's.
Yeah, but some of them have signs, which are the ones that don't?
Okay, yeah, I can get all that. So we'll table this discussion and I'll bring that back.
Just one last note, they're off by 12 quotes in this quote that they need. It's 400 even, but they're requesting 206 signs, and each one needs 2. We're missing 12.
Oh,
which
the
there's
bulk
6
kit?
signs.
Yeah,
Six-
he may
They
have,
might have both.
he may have
Oh, they
done
have
that
some
because he
leftover?
may have some,
Fair enough, I just don't want to get these and be like.
yeah.
'Cause
My
they
guess
do
is-
have a supply of.
My guess is the
Oh
bulk
my God.
kits are standard and they probably come in 100 pack.
Gotcha.
So he
that's
probably,
the pricing, yeah.
Instead of ordering 500, he ordered 400 thinking, well,
Fair
because
enough.
it's the same bulk kit, whether it's a stop sign or a no parking
I just
sign.
know how much kids love to steal signs. I didn't want them zip tied on there.
I
No,
was just gonna say, you misread, it said 6 and 5. Same
Do
thing.
they-
Donate the tire.
Do you think in the future boards who make no parking signs should take the signs for them? So our board paying for years of signage that were,
Well, some of it's us though.
no, we made 2 no parking signs, but not 206 signs. So we're gonna get some more information.
I'll get, yeah.
You said 9 o'clock.
Years.
Speak for yourself. I don't know about the 2 of us.
Yeah,
I was writing that.
yeah. We did some last year. We did some.
I
the year
think it goes
before.
with the town.
All right, okay. Had a request from the assessor. As you know, we have people going to trainings more often now than we somewhat used to. And so here it is.
Yeah, we got this at our last meeting too, right?
Not this,
Oh, this is a
new
different
one.
one.
this isn't about the training itself. So
Oh, okay.
currently, the town has, when people go on trainings, the town will pay for the training itself. The town will pay for, if it's an overnight, will pay for hotel accommodations within a certain amount of dollars. We'll pay for transportation. And if the person takes their own car, we'll reimburse mileage and tolls. We have not traditionally ever reimbursed per diem for meals. So that we approved the assessor's aide to go to the Cornell training on the 17th and 18th. He came back to me and he said, "What about meals?" And I went, "Well, we don't have a policy on it." So I wanted to start the discussion. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You could do the, you can use the IRS meal per diem rate for that city. Anybody who travels for business is probably pretty used to that. What we could do is we could, because we can't pay tax, and trying to not pay tax at restaurants and stuff is a lot different than not trying to not pay tax at a motel or hotel or something, you know, or so one way we could do it is we could front the money based on so much for lunch, so much for dinner, so much for breakfast allowance, and then ask the person to bring us back receipts for that amount, up to that amount. If it exceeded it, then they would be on their own. If it was under, then they would give us back the remaining cash. The other way is that they would pay for it, and then we would just reimburse the cost of the meals, not minus the tax. They would. Now, there's a couple schools of thought. One is that when people are at home, they're paying for their own food. Admittedly, when they're going on these events and now eating in a restaurant, it's much more it's more expensive. They're also traveling for business for the town. I know some places that in the past have paid a percentage of the meals and not dollar for dollar, because the thought is if you were home, you'd be paying for food. So the question is, one is, do we want to just deal with this as a one-off? Or the second question is, do we want to, we don't have, because this isn't until July, we don't have to decide. We could have a policy for travel, overnight travel, or even daytime travel that involves meals. As a town board, we could make a policy that we would use in all cases. So I said to Jeremy, I'd bring it to you guys to talk to you, get your thoughts on it, and then depending on what your thoughts are, we can go different directions. So.
I mean, I submit an expense report every single week. I do a lot of traveling. I deal with direct expense. It's a pain in the butt, but it's the easiest way to do it is to reimburse somebody for their actual incurred expenses. Especially, I think we should, but also like some of the trainings we've been to, breakfast and lunches are provided. So I don't want to give somebody $74 to go, hey, this is a day's worth of meals. And when, some of it's being provided, the tricky part of that is the tax. I almost think for simplicity's sake, and it's such a low dollar amount, and I hate to do it to somebody either. I don't know if there's a way for us to just say, we'll take care of the tax too, but we're not allowed. You almost have to say to the employee, we'll reimburse you for meals, this much for breakfast, this much for lunch, this much for dinner, based on the receipts, less tax.
Yeah.
We can even take care of the tip.
Yeah, well, we can take care of the tip. We just can't take care of the tax.
Standard 18%, but it should go reimbursed also through their paycheck. So that way there's a record of it.
That's harder to do because it's not, so the record will still exist because there'll be a voucher for a reimbursement.
Yeah.
I
No, because
I don't mind the actual cost, but my feeling is the actual cost should not exceed what the per diem rate is for that city. You know, if somebody wants to go out and have a really nice dinner, that's fine, but we're still only gonna pay you X number of dollars.
So our corporate thing, and it doesn't matter if you're in Accord or if you're in New York City, you get 15 for breakfast, 25 for lunch. If you don't do breakfast, or and you want to do, you don't submit one or the other, you can do 40, and then you get 45 for dinner. So the total on the day would be, what's that, 15,
Yeah.
$80,
Yeah.
right? So, and that's a Fortune 500 company across the nation.
Yeah.
That's the standard they're using.
Yeah, I think the government rates by city, and as somebody who's worked with those regularly, I think that matters because clearly if you go to New York City, it's different than if you're going to, so Ithaca, we'll say that because that's where they're going here, so. I would prefer to do it by the actual location. And that's easy to find, that rate.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, you go on the government website,
Yes,
GSA website, and it breaks it down by regions and, yeah. It's,
I think we should just do the flat per diem based off location. Most of these aren't gonna be multi-day trips, so in this case, it wouldn't be 74, it would be the first and last day, so it'd be 110 or whatever, 55.
but
55, 50 times two.
what if, like Adam said, meals are included?
Yeah, I think that
Doesn't
it
matter.
should,
No, it doesn't
disagree.
matter. You can't.
You
I
can pay
think-
per diem, you can give them per diem.
But
I
you're
think
paying
if
for the
rec-
meals in
Yeah, in the conference fee, you're already paying for those meals, like today, like our conference fee included breakfast to the one that I went to. And the hotel that they're staying at might include breakfast, so I think it should be the per diem rate of non-included meals.
And again, these
Direct.
are,
Direct roads.
Yeah, direct charge meals, not un'inclusive meals from the
Right.
conference
I
or
mean,
hotel.
We're gonna track it.
You gotta bring a receipt.
Wow.
We have to bring a receipt, yeah.
Wow, same way we track every other voucher. We have to have a receipt. We can't just give a per diem. We have to, if we just give them a per diem, then I have to treat it as income. If they give me back a receipt, then I can reduce.
Yeah, less the tax, like we'll still pay the tip, but we
can't pay the tax and we'll just, you know, as I said, if they were home, they were gonna pay something for them. So if they gotta pay $10 in tax or $8 in tax,
So we'll do actuals not to exceed.
actuals not to exceed the GSA for that city.
Of non-inclusive meals.
And,
GSA applies to state too.
what?
The GSA rates apply to the state too.
Yeah.
In their state.
Yeah. So the GSA rates, if you go online, it lists certain cities in the state, and then it lists a general rate for anywhere else in the state.
Yeah.
And believe me, with 30 years of traveling, I knew every city because every city, our per diem was based on rates like that. So,
I feel like this should only be for overnight.
Yes.
Okay,
also-
that's our
also
deal
agree
too.
with that.
given that information, I will work on putting a policy together. I'm sure there's some examples out there. I'll bring it back to you guys for adoption. And so it'll be only for overnight trips. It will cover actual meals. So if like they leave in the morning, they're not going to get breakfast that day, but they'll get lunch and dinner and breakfast the next day. And, you know,
And it's one of those things too, like you go to a conference and everybody's gonna like, hey, let's go out to the top of the line place. You know, you got $45 off it. You know, if you want to splurge, you go on a crazy bill or whatever.
but we'll do it by the GSA rate because it's the difference with us is it's not a company's money, it's taxpayer dollars.
The other thing too is you can't include alcohol in there. You know, a lot of the conferences, somebody wants to have a martini with dinner. You know, I can't expense alcohol.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's.
And
No.
that's yeah, okay. You guys agree with that?
Yeah,
So meals, but no expense for alcohol. Okay. Great.
I don't think we want to get into the, if you leave in the morning, you know, like, because your rate is already going to be lower because of the first and last day. I just think that's going to be a headache to say.
Okay.
Well, what time do
Yeah,
you leave?
Yeah.
traveling, like I had to stop and get food it on my way back. Camilla gave us breakfast. I was starving back from the conference.
Well, the GSA rate usually spells out each, that's why it's,
My favorite thing on an expense report, gas station lunch, showing how busy I am.
Yeah, very well.
Right, but it also, it has the first and last day, so you're already capped.
yeah.
If you do want to charge breakfast. you're
Yeah,
gonna
I-
get dinner.
Actually, that's fairly recent. I did not know the first and last day of travel.
Well,
Well, that's of travel, yeah.
we've done that as long as.
Yeah. I guess because mine were always, you know, I was gone for 20 days at a time, 30 days at a time.
Mine's like if you're leaving, for travel, you gotta get to the airport at 6 a.m, you're gonna have breakfast at the airport and, if you're getting home at midnight, you're gonna.
But we're not paying airfares for people and stuff like that. We usually we're paying, somebody's getting in their car and then driving.
The finest train municipality.
Okay, moving on. Freedom of information policy. I took the, Town of Ulster one. I cleaned up their,
New Bergman?
yeah, I have a new version, but it's now Town of Rochester's. And I also cleaned up their formatting. It's just driving me nuts because it's so. Not asking you to vote on tonight, take it, look at it. If you see anything that you have questions on, shoot me an email. If not, I'm gonna bring this for approval on the first. And this is, that's Kate to look at it as well. And I'm gonna have Mary Lou look at it. The only changes that I made were the spell check ones that it told me to do. And a lot of punctuation that spell check told me to fix. It changed commas to periods. And I understood why they were commas because it was like on page 2, the 2A through F, they were all like, because it's directly out of the code where they're listed not in list form, they're listed in text, in prose. So that's why they're all commas. But spell check changed them to periods. So, yeah, no, you tell me if it's right or wrong, Michael, and I know you will, so. But I gave it the proper headers and places where it needed to be. And I did change the one that Mary Lou asked to change about the pricing. It said actual cost, so.
And then this is just a policy, so after we adopt it, if we wanted to reformat it a little bit into like a handout so that it was easier to read for the public,
Yep,
like, we could do that.
we could. I mean, this is taken straight out of
Yeah.
the law. This is just a clearer version of the law. But, which is why, and I did quiz the Town of Ulster supervisor, which is why they do this. And they adopt this every year at their organizational
Yeah.
meeting, and we will too moving forward. We'll re-adopt it.
I know what you're saying though, but maybe like a one pager, like.
Ahead, and then have the policy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
FYIs
Yeah.
before.
As being that Kate's office is the one that deals with it, I'll let her do that however she wants, but this will be our policy. But it's a lot easier reading in this format than giving them a copy of the law.
Mhm.
So,
And then maybe
Yeah.
one more
like
step,
the
something in pink
Big-
with
yeah,
a smiley
exactly.
face on it. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
And there's a debate in general whether the proper term is FOIA, which is Freedom of
Right.
Information Act, or Freedom of Information Law. I wrote the code as law because that's how they had it. I wrote the agenda as FOIA.
Right. Or
It's
is it
up for interpretation.
Explain that, I don't know, what was state?
I don't know. Ooh,
I thought it was something like that too, but isn't it like foyer?
yeah. Anyway,
I think you should put that argument to someone.
I just didn't.
I'm gonna leave it at FOIL.
Foil or foya? Oh, foil.
I'm gonna
on
leave
the
it
policy.
FOIL, like the.
Foya,
it's
yeah.
written. The ethics code amendment, we had the public hearing on it. We heard a lot of comment, none of which thought it was a good idea. I am happy to just make a motion to end our review of that. Unless, the only thing is, the one question is, do we want to consider raising the 25 to 75? It should be done, but we probably would have to reopen. I don't know if we have to reopen the public hearing because we're not adding anything. It was in there already. We're just, the second part about the direct and indirect supervision, based on the comments and based on more thought of it, I'm ready to say we don't need to, we won't do it. And I will tell you, the issue that was in discussion that caused the initial discussion may have a different solution, but I'm not prepared to talk about that more yet because the assessor has an idea, but he and I want to talk more. But I can say with confidence that there's no need to do it anymore.
I agree with not making that change. I know I was fighting for it. But I agree with letting it stand. I'd be fine changing the 25 to 75. I think it's a reasonable amount. Personally,
The state code is that.
Yeah, I think-
personally, I wouldn't accept any gifts, so doesn't matter, but I think that's a fine, acceptable change.
Sometimes you don't know, and the clerk's office is a prime example. They get anonymous bouquets of flowers that when you look at them, they are clearly more than $25, but the florist walks in and hands it to them and there's no name, there's no card, we don't know who it came from. We could say, take it back. So,
Report to you.
okay, so I will check with Mary Lou. I will make-
About whether,
Yeah, about if we need to reopen the public hearing or if we can just move part of that and move forward with just, is the general consensus to move forward from the 25 to the 75 and not the second change?
Yeah, I'm fine to match. the
I'm
state
neutral
code
on
with
that
that.
It's the recommendation of our council that we make that move.
She's
And
had it
I've been
for
saying it for
15
years.
years.
Yeah, that I'm.
It
fine
wasn't
with.
really me in case.
Okay, so I will talk to her how to handle that. And June 1st, it's gonna get to be a busy meeting. but-
yeah.
Next. Shoot for that 9 o'clock. Just changed this when I said that, I know. You all got an email from the code enforcement officer. I printed it out here.
Thanks.
About our accessory dwelling law. So the question is, what are people's reactions? I'll be honest, I got it and I didn't really look at it that carefully till today.
Well, I could just say what my reaction is, which is, or not reaction, the context reaction that I have, which is originally we had the law clear that it was not to apply to new construction. And then we decided to take that out, which is maybe why it seems vague, because we left the part in about using existing housing stock, which is one of the great reasons to do it. However, I think the point of saying, it says that the principal dwelling has to be like a primary residence. Like, I get that point of like, how do you handle that with a development project? And I think this issue came up in another town where there was like a developer developing multiple units wanting to put.
Came up in Marbletown.
Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to look and see if they handle that in a specific way, but like.
What? It was near there. It wasn't them, but it was another subdivision where,
Connected to it.
yeah, so.
Who's
So,
the owner?
yeah, so what's happening is people are coming in now with subdivisions and they're saying, okay, I'm gonna make a principal residence and I'm gonna put a second structure on, that's gonna be an ADU. One part of me says, well, great, that's what we're trying to
Yeah.
do. We're trying to get more housing and that, now, the one part that's a little concerning where he says these two particular parcels are not owner occupied.
Well, because nobody owns
Because,
them yet.
well, somebody owns the property
Oh, right.
though. So
But
Yeah.
That statement I don't necessarily agree with. It's owned by somebody.
Right.
They're building a principal, one house
There's
has
no
to
one
be
residing
designated.
at
But,
Yeah.
and I interpreted that different, that they're building, rentals or, short-term transit rentals.
They can't. That we've got in the code. They
Then
can't
that-
use it virtually.
Good.
Yeah, I don't.
I-
I see the point of us,
Yeah.
of the not thinking new separate building. I see that with the wording in there that you brought up. Totally get how we interpreted that portion, but.
It would kind of defeat the purpose, though, if we said that you couldn't do new construction, because if somebody wants to build two structures and one of them qualifies as an ADU, we just gained two more structures, two more housing structures in the town, and that was the whole purpose. of the
I
code.
think that's why we took it out. Originally,
Yeah.
we said it had to be an existing home, like associated with an existing dwelling, but then we took that out.
Yeah.
So like, that's what I felt like, oh, if it is the intent of the board to allow it to apply to a new build, we should just make that really clear.
Yeah,
If
so-
there,
And the purpose and intent section about the existing stock, that's just one statement of many.
oh yeah, I don't think that's,
And I see the other thing that Jerry's saying in here is that, this is a spec house, that they don't know if they need the ADU. I guess that could get a little dicey, because if somebody bought it and they never put anybody in there, they just use it as a guest house, and they used it as a recreation room for a pool table or something like that, then it doesn't fit. So how do we enforce that it's actually being used as an ADU?
well,
One ADU doesn't have to be a rental.
yeah, I would say, so I lived in a community that I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and there's a culture there of having citas, which are, it's an ADU. It's a tiny dwelling that has a kitchen and a bathroom, and that's how people, it's a guest house or a game room, but then all the college students, it's like the rentals that I lived in as a college student was in, somebody's like backyard casita. And so it has I think part of it is it's the potential to be housing. So whether or not the homeowner is using that as a rental or a dwelling unit every single month, it's sort of like protection of farmland in a way, issues where you're saying, well, the housing stock is created. So,
But maybe I'm sorry to interrupt, but maybe I'm reading too far into it. I think what Jerry's saying is that they're just building a bigger structure and with maybe no intention of using it for an ADU. Just building a bigger house to build a bigger house.
That's the
especially
law
for
we
spec
made.
house.
But that's okay.
But that's okay.
well, people can build as big of a house as they want.
As long as it fits all the setbacks and everything else, which it does. You would
Yeah, I
think
think
considerably
you-
so.
The only thing we're changing is density. It's allowing, and if it's a guest house for the principal, yes, it's another bedroom, but
So the septic requirement.
the old code used to allow, they were called in the code mother-daughter houses, which was, sort of the person's mother, or maybe the daughter goes to college and comes back from college and, lives on their own, but lives on the property still. Or you have the aging parent who's still able to live by themselves, but, and is living there. Or it's a rental. It's a rental to, a family or a single person.
So when we were considering this, Adam, one of the things that kept coming up for me is that there's no restriction on how big of a house to build. So this idea that like adding a very tiny home creates this density issue ignores the fact that anyone could build like a 20-bedroom house. There's no,
There's lot coverage.
I mean, there is lot coverage, but I'm saying that we're talking about the difference between having a kitchen and like not having a kitchen. So the idea is there's still lot coverage applies, even with this, like it doesn't change anything. And the septic has to be appropriate. And one of the things we discussed is it's essentially just like a bedroom. So, but I kind of like the only thing is like the owner of the parcel, shall maintain their primary domicile in either the principal dwelling or the accessory dwelling unit. I mean, that's hard to enforce throughout the sale of a property, like, it's not like we can, I don't know, like, you can't like, you're gonna tear it down because.
Yeah, we can't see this has to be their primary home if they're buying it. as a
Actually,
secondary.
with new construction, it's easy to enforce when it first starts.
Exactly. It's
Over
easy.
time, but over
Yeah.
time, it's gonna be hard to
Right,
enforce in
yeah.
every case.
So I don't know, in terms of like an actual development project, like I can see why, I think that his ruling is justified in that case, but I don't know how we want to deal with it. Now, there is like a ADU legal lunch session at the beginning of next month that I wanted to sign up for and see if they bring this issue up, but,
Well, we also can tweak this while we're tweaking the code.
oh, yeah.
This isn't something we have to decide in the next days or even
Yeah.
month. We can, when we're redoing the zoning code, if we come up with tweaks that we want to do to the ADU chapter, we certainly can, just like any other chapter of the code, so.
What's great is we got a good case study while we're working on it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I hear his point that they're building 2 units and in his mind, because he talked to me about this privately, and I think he probably talked to you too.
Not about this specific one, but.
He said
about
they're
it.
kind of thumbing their nose at our density laws,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, but that's the purpose of the ADUs.
That's what we're talking, yeah, that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Well, and I think that this is accurate and effective of how we wanted this law to work. I think if a developer does not live on that property, is trying to do ADUs on it to get the density bonus and to do it, there's no saying that even though the town law is that ADUs cannot be used as short-term rentals, that a realtor is not gonna try to tell someone that it can be a short-term rental as advertising for that property and then causing a whole slew of problems for us in that real estate issue after someone buys the house, it applies. And then the code enforcement has to be like, no, sorry, that's it, that was built as an ADU, they got a bonus, you can't have that, and the person already bought this house, and then we get blown up on next door, we get a whole other issue ensues or from it, so I think that this is sound, and this is how, me personally, I think this is how the law should be working, like developers shouldn't.
Yeah.
This law, the ADUs
You
are to
agree with that?
encourage multi-generation. I agree with that, there should, like, developers shouldn't be, if it's not someone's already existing primary residence that.
You think a
they
new
should-
construction, like if someone's building themselves a house
For themselves.
for themselves, they could do an
They could do
ADU,
that.
but if someone's developing multiple.
I don't think we can legally do that. I don't think we can differentiate that way because it's essentially discrimination.
It's a use, we've allowed the use.
Yeah.
If the developer builds it, fine.
It's still gonna
If they
sell.
sell it and then a new person gets it, they can build an ADU, so the use is allowed.
And it's
I think
also,
that's
I
what
mean,
it
it
is.
says in his first part, that's part of our purpose and intent to allow more effective uses of the town's existing stock.
Well,
ADUs
yeah.
shouldn't be encouraged in.
Well, then we need to
Brand
redo the
new
law and
construction.
say it can only happen on a parcel where there's an existing structure.
We took that out.
But
We did take
we
that
did
out.
take that out
It was,
because,
it was,
right. because the goal is to encourage
Yeah.
housing, so.
like this
Yeah.
board took it, he took it.
Yeah.
I don't see the problem with the developer because the
I know.
developer, ultimately, whoever buys the property, the developer is not gonna live there. We know that, but whoever buys the property still has to abide by the law for the ADU. It's not changing how the law gets applied to the property. So I understand Jerry's words there that says, they're not owner occupied. They're not owner occupied because nobody's living there. But as soon as somebody buys that property, they're gonna live there.
Do they have to indicate that it's an ADU on the site plan?
Oh, yeah, in order to get the density bonus. Otherwise, they can't build it.
Yeah, so if they then apply for a short-term transit, the building department will give them.
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna cause an issue with how much realtors in this area advertise properties.
Well,
as short-term rentals.
Well, realtors they have to follow ethics.
Oh, that's it.
And they can't just, if they do, it's on them. It's not on us.
Okay, fair enough with that, yeah, because I can't tell you one housing post, I haven't seen this in the town of Rochester from certain realtors that live here that says there's still applications available for the town of Rochester for short-term rentals on the actual advertisement. So I just don't, yeah, it's on the.
We
realtor
can't
then, and
control
that's-
how somebody advertises, you know, that's on them.
You know how many farm properties I looked at that were not?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, or they'll say it's buildable and.
And ultimately, whatever the realtor says, the loss, the person that buys it, if they don't do their own due diligence as to the loss for that property, ultimately that falls to them. You know, it's their responsibility before they plunk down their money to buy that property that they've done their due diligence. And if a realtor has, you know, embellished what they can do and can't do, it
No, you're right, that's on that,
doesn't
yeah.
fall to us.
What we could
And I think
do.
more housing, not, depends where you.
Go ahead, Michael, you got I see a brainstorm.
Yeah, what's
What we could do is have a fee for people that are selling houses above a certain amount, like they've been passing towns around here, so that when they sell these high cost properties, we can put those dollars back into an affordable housing fund, potentially do something.
Again,
Wow.
You're
And-
so brilliant.
You know what?
when we're done working on all these,
Sorry.
but Michael, when we're done working on all these other codes that we can't find enough time to work on, then we can work on more, you know, so.
2.5 more years.
Feel free to, if you want to bring a proposal, feel free to write it.
Interesting. I don't know if they passed this.
Marble
This
Town?
is draft, but in this draft version, I can't find, I'll look, but they have like, I see, they allow you to do it if you set aside affordable housing units in a new development project. So it's like
That's what
a,
I was thinking, if you a requirement that the ADU has to be an affordable
Okay.
long-term rental for non-owner occupied
So
development.
for new construction.
yeah, for a
You
development.
gotta set development.
Yeah.
But this is, see, what
It says accessory apartments.
Jerry's is single houses. This is single
Or
property.
what if you want your parents to live there, or your adult children?
It's either a family, so the way that, the state, luckily, I just went to a thing on this. The way that the money that's been trickling down from the $23 million that was awarded to Ulster County, City of Kingston and Repco combined for the ADU incentive is it either, they're not requiring that you have to rent it and it be affordable long-term rental, but if it is not that, it has to be a family member living in that unit.
But that's for all ADUs.
That's for any ADUs that get this specific funding. So if we use that same terminology in ours, that it either has to be a family member or a long-term affordable housing.
Yeah, but the goal is not, yes, the goal is affordable housing, but the goal is also housing. If we're because there's a housing shortage in general.
And then long-term rental, it doesn't have to say affordable, but a long-term rental,
Yeah.
not.
I think I read this really quickly and I see, this is saying there's a couple of instances
Of particular lots being developed. And I think what happened in Marbletown was there was like a subdivision,
Yeah.
development project.
Yeah.
And so they wrote, which I don't even know if it passed, because but I will do,
It
I
did
will,
pass. They passed a version of it. I don't
Okay.
remember exactly.
I will,
Yeah.
I like the idea of revisiting the ADU law when we're going.
Okay. Think about it some more.
But in general, I love the ADUs and I don't think we've been getting lots of applications for them. So I kind of feel like,
Well,
The housing committee's very,
When we were
they've
at
done
the-
all about ADUs too, they want to do advertising. about
Okay,
them. So
when
I
we
think
were at
we're-
the training today, this one assessor was talking and there was like, what, one? And this was. in
No,
a-
he had zero. They've had,
Oh, yeah.
their law was signed in a month after ours was in effect a month after ours. Cause I looked at, went on E-code while he was talking. So I was just like, oh, I wonder when. I can't remember what town he was from.
They were a
and-
village.
or,
They were a village.
you know.
That village was tiny.
But he said, we've had it since July of last year and we even had one, but then Hastings on the Hudson has had their ADU law for 28 years and they have 25.
25.
Building's expensive, and if you're already building a primary structure, it might be easier to also build.
Yes.
a new
Oh,
one.
Dobbs Ferry, that's where it was.
Yeah.
But it's also the suburbs and they don't allow external ones. It has to be, and it can only be 33% of the.
Most of theirs are
unit.
based.
Yeah, they're
a lot of the
growing.
laws made it like kind of impossible to build them, which is why we
That's what-
tried to make ours a little bit more.
Their sizes can't be more than 33%.
I forwarded that lunch one with you.
Unfortunately, have one for the food pantry at the
Oh, at
same
the same time,
time,
okay.
yeah, otherwise. I-
Okay, I gave you guys the outdoor lighting code, which was kind of Ulster. I emailed it to everybody. And I will tell you, they had a public hearing and they're looking at making a couple tweaks. One of the tweaks is talking about more about, and it's something that I understand, color temperature on certain types of lights.
Like the LED, the 10,000 luminaires.
Yeah. So, just wanted to sort of keep it on our radar, get a general discussion of, is this a code, this particular version of this code, is this one that we want to maybe pursue to refine? Do we want to go back to where we were with the other ones? This is a topic that I can talk about, and I think it does need a little bit more refining in terms of specific types of numbers. And that's where it's lacking a little bit.
It's a pretty short timeline to come to conformance.
Yeah, and well, that part too was a little shocking.
30 days.
But remember, we saw everywhere from 30 days to what, 10 years? And everything in between. I'm sure somewhere in the middle of that, maybe not the median, but somewhere in between those two.
I mean, we did do some thought work around that, and I thought what we had decided was like 6 months to a year for like businesses and then residences get a little bit longer, which I thought was useful.
But in general, it's a little simpler than some of the other stuff. And the nice thing is, I noticed they refer back to the, where did I see it? The ICC, not ICC, the International Illumination Society, or which is actually a group. I was never a member, but my college professor was, which is why I know about the group. Where did I see that? I thought it was in the standards, but maybe I'm wrong. Somewhere I saw a reference to it. Some of the things I like the limitations on the height of pole lamps, things like that. And it does address some of the things that our zoning code does, so we probably will need to somehow make these sort of merge together better, because we're still talking about doing this as a standalone code, and I picked chapter 94 because just alphabetically it's where it fit well. So. I don't remember where I saw it in here somewhere.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It's not urgent right now.
So what were you saying, Mike?
Well, the question is this one, this particular code we want to pursue this one. We want to go back to the original where we kind of were, which was a lot wordier and a lot.
I thought that one was too long.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, bear in mind that we also have to have a code that is going to be able to be understood and enforceable by our building department.
I think we start with this and then see if there's anything you want to pull.
Okay.
From those other ones.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Seems so far.
And see if there's anything in here that we really don't like, but. Okay,
Maybe just have pictures.
we can do that. Okay. So next,
So are we gonna try and, we're gonna just try to work on this simultaneously?
I think we should, yeah, I mean, I think,
the other-
yeah, we can either do that or we can work on it at our workshop meetings.
Okay.
Some more. I just want to get a feel from,
I just, Oh, I found it, Mike, number 6 on the
Thank you.
first page.
I looked right over it. Yeah, there it is.
I did too.
Doesn't have.
Illuminating
It's not
Engineering
yet.
Society of North America.
So I hear about this, the lighting stuff every week, so I just, like, maybe it would be good if we had a goal to like have some work done on it for our next workshop meeting.
So we should work on it at our
Yeah.
next workshop.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be great if when we're doing public hearings for all the zoning stuff, we could also have this ready. If people are gonna be out here
Yeah.
commenting.
Yeah,
Should ride along with it.
it can. I mean, we could even adopt this prior, but we want to make sure that we're not going to do something radically that's going to be a mess. We got to be careful
right,
by doing a standalone code that we don't set up discrepancies
Right.
between our zoning code and this.
Well, and we'll be doing lighting as part of the zoning, so.
Yeah.
it's in the,
It's already in there, and it's in part of the subdivision now too,
Yeah.
which it didn't used to be, so. Okay, moving right along here. So, we had a request to talk a little further, we had started discussion. You may have all these documents already, but I printed them again. So this was the original resolution of the board of 2014, which reaffirmed the constables. This here is the reestablishment in 2019 by the town board as part of the organizational meeting. This here is the Ulster County Personnel Department's job description for constable. And this was the additional job duties that were somewhat contemplated. And I went back and I did send this to Michael Richardson back in March and asked him to, because we had discussed it, and asked him to start looking into writing a job description for administrative constable, chief constable, whatever the title we decide we want it to be. Because there is no job description in the civil service for this position, we can request, we can write our own, we can send it to the county, who then sends it to the state, and they can approve it. Once the job description is approved, it can then be designated for our community and we can fill that position. So it is a multi-step process. We did that with the zoning coordinator position. And that was in consultation with the person doing the work, as this has been in consultation with Rich. This information came from Rich. I forgot how Michael did not reply back on this. He and I had a dialogue and I emailed it to him. And I did go back, and it was
Okay.
toward the end of March when we sent that to him, so I probably need to do a reminder
Because
to him.
one thing that he and I talked about a while ago on the phone when we were talking about something else, is that he could go through and see which of these items fell within the
Mhm.
other related activities, because he was saying there are some administrative duties that are fine, like scheduling and
Right.
I don't remember what he said,
Right.
but then there are others that might not be, but at that time, hadn't sent
Yeah.
him this list, so.
Bear in mind that the job description is always, the key word is typical work activities. It's not ever intended to be a be-all and end-all list. But it covers the generalities. But it also is a protection for the employee if you're asking them to do something that is extremely different. It's not going to cover it's an answer to dog complaints, they could also answer a noise complaint. It doesn't say that on there, but it's a similar type of activity. So they're sort of generalities, even though sometimes the wording is a little specific. And this is our current constables are done under this job description. And we have two that we have assigned additional duties. One, we assigned administrative duties, and one we assigned scheduling duties in addition to these.
And it's competitive.
It came back, the county ruled that it is, the county and the state, even though they are part-time, they ruled that these are competitive,
There's a
so,
test next month.
oh, well,
I was doing research and I saw it and I was like, what? I didn't even
that's
know.
very surprising to me, because if there's a test next month, the state should have informed, or the county should have informed me, because we have people that are provisional.
Yeah,
Whenever the test comes up, they're supposed to notify the people who are provisional as well as the employer that the test is happening.
Yeah, I was like, I did not know that at all. Maybe it's in July, but.
Okay,
It's-
thank
it's the
you. And
first
I'll,
list
yeah,
on
let
there.
me, I'll follow up with that
Yeah.
because I did not see that.
It's, yeah, last file date 6/13, examination 7/15.
Okay, well, I will follow up with the Ulster County personnel and find out about that. Because they were the ones, normally part-time positions are almost never competitive.
Right.
And they felt because we questioned it when they made them competitive, and I actually talked to the state too, and they said, we're moving that direction because these are specialized jobs, so. we
You
want
do
them
have to
be
have
competitive.
certain,
Well, you still have to have criteria, but they're two different things. They can, on a non-competitive position, they can still require that you hold certain titles or, like, for example, an HMEO driver is not a competitive position, but you must have a certain type of CDL license to be eligible for the job, but it's not a competitive position. So the constable, you could have to have the certifications and the trainings that were required without it being competitive. The competitive part means everybody takes the same standardized test and we get to pick from the top 3 scores. And if the people who currently hold the job are not one of the top 3 scores, they still can only pick from the top 3 scores. Now, if we're filling 6 positions, it's the top 3 and then the next one and the next one. And it's also the top scorers who decide that they want the position. So we, if somebody looks at our position and says, no, it doesn't pay enough, I don't want that position, they can refuse the position. So, but that's interesting information, Aaron.
yeah, I just was like looking.
Yeah, I don't normally check this that
Me
carefully.
neither. I don't check it either.
Was it on the state list or on the county?
It's on the county list.
County list.
Yeah. It just popped up when I did a search. And
Does it give an as of date there? Just curiosity.
no, but it's the first one.
I'll find out.
I think it must have been pretty recent that it.
Okay. So the further question is, I guess it's not even a question, it's more a statement. I'll double back with Michael Richardson and ask him, just give him a nudge on this, because he's normally very quick and responsive, and I have a feeling that this one slipped through the cracks. So, because it's been now 5 weeks since I emailed him. So I'll remind him and ask him to assist us in coming up with a job description.
And I do think we should communicate with an employee who would be filling this position
Mhm.
and let them come and enjoy the conversation about the description at some point, since they're the ones who have already been doing these duties.
Yep.
Well,
Well, that's where this list was generated.
yes, yeah, I know, but it was from, how long ago?
No,
It
when
was from January.
we did it,
so-
but we still had to talk about it first. That's why I got to Michael. When we did the other one, when we were doing the job description, it wasn't really done at a meeting. So Michael put it together, and it was a collaborative effort with all the people. So,
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to be.
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
To make sure.
Because, some of these are like general, but I know that one of the things Michael Richardson is gonna want to do is like go through them one by one and
Right.
kind of break down
Yeah.
what all of them are.
But bear in mind, we still have the final say as to what those job duties would be, because it may be something that it's not a direction we want the town to go. So I'm just putting that out there as well.
Well, in terms of getting a new civil service title, it's civil service ultimately that makes that decision. It would be up to us whether or not we then request it.
Right, but we write, when we're writing it, we write the job description, we send it, and civil service either approves or disapproves the job description. So we initiate it.
Right.
So my point is the town board ultimately approves the job description and the sending of it, because we get to write our own job description. And so that's what I mean, is we have a say in what duties we want that person to be responsible for. So that's all. That's my point, yes.
One of the things that I thought was interesting about this description, this Ulster County one, that's different from other county civil service descriptions, is this one doesn't say that constables don't have supervisory authority, whereas I've seen two others that specifically say that.
Yeah,
So that was another question I had for Michael Richardson.
we're bound by what the county does, and this one was updated in 2018. I don't know what they revised in 2000. Actually, I do know what they revised, because that revision came about because of us.
Yeah, no, I know.
And I think what they revised is the classification, and they made it competitive.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I bring that up is that, like, a couple of the bullets on this is the direct supervision. And like, I don't know, some positions explicitly say this position directly supervises other people, and some say this position does not directly supervise other, but this one doesn't say anything.
Right. Well, because this is just a general constable, we're writing a job description for an administrative or supervisory constable. So that's what this list is.
No, I
But is
get
that-
what you're saying. I get that.
I know what you're saying. This doesn't say.
Right.
Does the general title of constable allow for it or not
For
allow
a
for it?
head
It doesn't
constable,
say.
which some of the other towns that
Right.
have constabularies don't have chiefs, they assign head constables that have those
Right.
duties without having a different.
But in Ulster County, that's not possible because of this job description, I think. Well, actually, it doesn't, actually, it's silent on it. So
That's
maybe
what, yeah,
that-
that's my,
Oh, I'm
that's my
sorry.
point. I would wanna
Okay.
ask Michael Richardson about that,
Okay,
like, also,
okay. But ask him about that.
just like.
I'm not sure what
comparing-
that is. About
comparing
this?
this list with what is allowed in this, and really pulling out what is in this list that would not be allowed under this
Right.
description. And there's a couple that I know are not included in here.
Yeah.
And there's a couple that I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I have my own opinions on this list, and that's why we need to be involved in the writing of the job description, because I don't know that I am in agreement with everything on this list, and I agree with you. There's some things not on this list that I would want in there. So,
And just to clarify, the question asked here is, can we change the official job specification in the town board? Change that. We haven't done that, correct?
we have not, we've
Assigned duties.
assigned duties, so, but the question was raised is the duties that we assigned, are we allowed to assign those duties?
Right,
That's the question
Yeah.
that's been raised.
Within this definition. of
yes,
content.
exactly.
Correct. And that's what initiated this whole conversation of, do we need to create this position if we want that position? You know, it could fall to the supervisor to do all that. It could.
To do the things that are not covered by that.
Correct.
Yeah,
Because because ultimately, even if we make a chief constable, unless we change our handbook to make them a department head, the supervisor will still be the department head over that.
They'll be the supervisor.
They will be the supervisor employee. Yep. We're all getting really good with that terminology. It took me a while, because department head gets flip-flopped.
Yeah.
People say, you know, they're the department head. Now, the department head is essentially the elected officials and the recreation director.
Yeah.
Only because I didn't want to be responsible for every after-school aid. So we added that. So, but we could do the same with whatever the job title name that we come up with. We just have to amend the handbook, or it stays with the supervisor. And that person then is the administrative, which is everything else. Okay. So with all that said and done, we're
Can we
gonna
have
go.
the secretary? I have an M.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, oh, good,
yeah.
good, thank you, I forgot my ad. So, to fill you in where we stand on the planning and zoning secretary, first, a big public thank you to our planning board chair and zoning board chair for handling the administrative duties of their respective boards in the interim, while we have no secretary. And a thank you to the town clerk's office and the building department staff for helping us with getting public hearing notices out. It's been a team effort. Everybody has sort of pitched in, and we're still working well. Mr. Grasso is coming in, you know, at 6 a.m. and doing 3 or 4 hours before he goes online and does his other work. And so it's working, but we need somebody. We put out the Indeed ad. We got 11 resumes on it. We have interviewed 3 people. We interviewed somebody yesterday that we were all very excited about. I really thought I was going to come to you with a name tonight, and unfortunately, she emailed me last night. I'm not going to go into details, but she decided she is unable to do the position. We did have a meeting last night by Zoom with Michael and myself and the 2 chairs and Michael Richardson. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about compensation. We talked about job duties. We talked about onboarding. We talked about, there was one other thing. We talked about 4 things. What was the 4th? Training.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of the
That's part of
onboarding.
onboarding.
Yeah, there was a 4th one we talked about. Job duties, compensation.
Hours.
Oh, hours. So there is a general consensus that this position, and this was across the board, we all agree, does not need to be a full-time position. We had moved away from it. We had made it was full. We went to 28 hours, which was working well. We upped it again to 35 at the request of the building department at the time, because they were piggybacking. They were doing 28 hours as the planning and zoning secretary and 7 hours to assist the building department. As we've had turnover, we've just carried over the 35 hours. Mark's feeling is 20 hours a week, 8 to 12. Bear in mind the 28 hours is kind of the magic number of whether we offer medical and health insurance benefits or not. Michael had the feeling, Michael Richardson there were 3 Michaels in the meeting, had the opinion of, he was in agreement with that less hours and higher compensation. His opinion was you have 2 types of clerks. You have the clerk that is there, receives the paperwork, enters it, presents it to the board, and is more just a face, but also it's a function. Then you have the polar opposite, where you have the person that's there, and the chair and the board walk in and say, here's your agenda, and this is done, and this is done, and this is done. I think we talked in agreement. We think it's somewhere in the middle of those 2 positions. Both chairs do want to have an involvement in the application review process and in the direction of what happens in terms of steps. But they also want somebody who can have the knowledge of what the steps are, So they're preparing for that, if that makes sense. And I think I'm saying it correct. So Mark was very strong in his opinion of 20 hours a week, 8 to 12. I agree the morning is very important. I think contractors and developers and things in general show up early in the morning. Afternoon, not so much. We have a little bit of a stumbling block. The building is closed from 12 to 1. With 3 offices in the same hallway, you can't really close 2 offices and leave 1 open. It becomes somebody comes in to talk to the building, the code enforcement, the planning and zoning, and I'm just gonna run over here to the code enforcement while I'm here. And so, and my opinion is if you work somebody from 8 to 12, can't really bring them back from 1 to 2. So 5 hours a day doesn't work well unless you did 3 and 2. So I think I threw out the idea of a 4-day work week at 4 days at 6 hours a day. Do 8 to 12 and 1 to 3. It was not as well received, but I think the consensus kind of came around as it could work. So what I wanted to get tonight is feedback from you guys, because I'd like to change the ad to what realistically we're offering. We don't have to decide tonight, but I wanted an indication. Do we want to go 20 hours? Do we want to go 24 hours? Michael also, he made a chart of what we're paying clerks in various positions. His recommendation is that this position should be a $20 or $21 an hour position. We kind of looking at our other positions decided on that 20 was probably the number right now for less hours. And it's comparable then to our highway secretary who works 25 hours a week and makes $20 an hour, but then doesn't get medical benefits.
So I think it sounds like maybe 25 would be good. I wonder if there's a way, because there's also the meetings.
Well, the meetings are above and beyond. So the weekly is the hours worked in the office.
I understand.
Yeah, the meetings are always above. and
So I was thinking maybe we could write if we were to think for budgetary purposes, we could say up to, I'm using 25 hours as an example, but we could also say that it could be a little flexible.
But the problem runs then with county personnel.
Oh, they won't let us do that.
We have to say, if it's above 20 hours, we have to say what the hours are. Now, Michael's opinion was you put in the higher number.
Yeah,
If they work less, oh well. The
that's what I'm
prob-
trying to say.
The problem is our county personnel office doesn't work that way.
Oh, they don't want us to.
They would rather, and what I've experienced is you give them the lower number, and then if it on a week-to-week basis, this week comes up and the chair says, hey, I really need the secretary to work 3 more hours this week. They're okay with it. He checks with me and I go, yeah, sure. They can work. Now, our budget is not an issue because we budgeted for 35 hours a week, admittedly at $18.50 an hour, but we're fine.
I guess I know that position was at 28 hours for years, so I guess.
It actually wasn't. It was only 28 during Brianna's.
Oh, during
It
Brianna.
was 35 with Becky.
Yeah,
It was 35 with Beverly, who was the first one.
Yeah.
Who was there for 20 some years. Then Becky was 35, Shay was 35. We cut it down with Brianna to 28 because she went up from the secretary at the third deputy clerk's position, or second deputy clerk's position, which was only a 20-hour week job. So we were increasing our hours. So we
Yeah.
cut it to 28.
I'm just expressing a concern from going from a 28 to 35 hour a week position all the way down to 20. I just don't.
I'm concerned with that too, which is why I was leaning to 24. I
Yeah.
can't figure out how to make 25 work.
Why can't we do 25 and they still work the hour while other offices are closed and just the.
They can.
The building's closed, but they can do agendas, they can do
Yeah,
other
no,
research.
they
and
can,
emailing,
and that's
And then
fine.
that's 25 hours, it's 5-hour days.
But the hours posted would be 8.
Or
8 to
the
12 would
hours
be
posted
the
would 8 to
building.
12, and then the building's closed and but they are still here during the 12 to 1 time period and they don't have to take a
I'm
lunch
okay
because
with
it's
that
under
too.
6 hours.
As
I think
long
that's-
as, as long as though we have to have a hard and fast rule that that door stays locked, closed and locked. What we
Absolutely.
can't do is, oh, I know she's there or he's there, let me knock on the door. It gets really
No,
hard.
and we'll make that clear to whoever we hire that that's the problem, like it's, you have to have someone else, there has to be someone else in the building, you can't.
No, not even there has to be,
Yeah.
that door is,
Closed,
we're
yeah.
we're
The building
closed
staff
for
is closed.
business.
Yeah, you're strictly
Yeah.
working on.
Same thing with the town hall.
To a degree, but I can tell you if somebody is there and somebody sees us there, they're knocking on the door and they can see you there and it's, you know, so.
My
Admit
only other concern is, I understand what you're saying about looking at the different tasks and what other clerks and secretaries are paid within the town. But I think starting them out $1.50 more than that position's already making at full-time sets a precedent and sends a message to our other employees who didn't start out that high. I think if it was $18.50 for a probationary period and then based on performance, it got maybe a 50 cent or dollar raise after 6
So-
months, that's a little bit better, but I
So,
think that
so
that's a
Michael
good message
Richardson's
to our.
message is loud and clear. You have a pay grade for a position based on responsibilities. This is his opinion. You don't reward longevity. You pay, your pay rate is based on what the job is and what the requirements of that job are. I understand what you're saying, which is why I push. And skill, yeah, which is why I pushed for the 20, because he even said 20 to 22. And I said, you're gonna have a mutiny. But he also, we are going to work toward, I'm gonna work with him on going back to, which this town hasn't done since the early 2000s, actually, the late 1990s, I think. This type of, he looked at our range though, and he said, we're not bad. I mean, we've made huge improvements in the last 5 or 6 years. They were all over the map 6 years ago. We've gotten much better.
We did drop that pay down. Initially, we budgeted 1950 for that entry level.
But I'm saying. it's-
No, we didn't. We budgeted 18.
No, what we made some adjustments at our organizational meeting, but I think we had it.
We lowered it to
19.
18.
Yeah.
It was budgeted at 1850. And we paid it. Or did we budget at 19?
I thought
I think
we
we
budgeted
budgeted
at
at
19.
Well, I can tell you, all I gotta do is divide by 52 and I can tell you what I did. So, I'll double check that.
I personally think that if that's what we agreed to as an entry level, with it
Okay.
being 35 hours like that, there should be a standard of where each job starts at, and if we hire a new person, it still starts at that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes,
And that's what I'm saying here. I don't like our employees who started before, we were more mindful of what people started at and raises. I don't think it's personally fair to start someone who they might not have ever worked with a zoning or planning board and they get hired at a higher rate than they were hired at with experience potentially in their own position. I think we should leave it as the 1850 as a starting.
Well, the problem is our pool of applicants at that rate of pay.
I mean, we pay our constable $16 an hour to start, and I know it's not apples to apples comparison between those two jobs, but the fact that we pay someone that carries guns and protects our town to
I get it,
be
but
less
it's,
than that,
yeah,
and I understand it's not apples to apples, but to then offer someone $4 more with an office job does not, it doesn't line up for me.
right. Well, yeah, but we can't compare because that rate, you know, when I started, they were making 10 something an hour. And I bumped them up considerably each pay time, so each pay time. So that was somewhat self done by,
I think there's two issues. One is the filling positions itself and like what are pay expectations and what do we need to do in order to fill and keep a position? That's one issue. I think the other issue, and I understand what Michael Richardson thinks, but I think the other issue is doing, and then we talked about doing this. We've talked about doing this. I'd still like to do it with just a holistic review of our pay again, because
I'm
of
going to
this,
do it
that-
before the next budget cycle. I'm gonna send him and ask him for a quote for the process of doing it, and it will be included in my next budget. So.
Yeah.
He already said yesterday that based on what he wrote down, and he's comparing clerical job to clerical job to clerical job. So.
I'll tell you, it's been so wild watching the pay rates and all these different positions over the years. And like I said, I'm glad we're always having these discussions, but Charlotte, I'm telling you, it's like, you know, you got somebody in longevity that's getting 3% every year, and they started here and they've been here for 10 years. And then we have to bump up the position, then we bump them up and it's 6%. And the next thing you know, we have a different position, then the hours go down. And then you look at this department over here, we're going to have these discussions to the end of time. I think we've done a good job collectively bringing them up, but then also you look and you say, how do we compare to other towns? And then you say, you know, how are we affecting our budget and the taxpayers? It's not easy. Like I said, we should keep having the conversations, but we also, one of our major fills is this position. We got to get it filled. We can't have, you know, Mark Rosso coming in there at 6 a.m. To fill the space. One of the things when we talk, I like what you said about the, you know, having the door closed. This might open up a whole different can of worms, but it might also open up a different candidate pool. Had we thought about the, you know, the morning as the facing hours, had we thought about a hybrid model of work from home situation for the balance of the 8, that creates a different talent.
There's not enough work
Okay.
to do. That position in most communities is not a 35, not a full-time position.
Right. Not to bring it to
And-
35, but to bring it up to 25 or 28. Just makes the position more attractive. I'm not even sure if there's enough work to do it.
Well, and that's the problem is there's not enough work to do. If it's done well by somebody, it was, you know, even with 28 applications, which we have right now by the way, in the planning board, 28 ongoing applications in a moratorium. But even at that, it's just, you know, Michael sat down, he goes, okay, what do? They receive the application. Okay, that's an hour. You know, they do this, that's an hour. There's just, at the end of the day, there's just not enough time and there's not enough work to fill the position. And I think that's part of the problem is, at least with our previous person, is there was nothing for them to do. So they sat there and went, okay, I gotta be here, but what am I supposed to be doing? It's a unique position in that you are a department of one. So I think lowering it, so we say, we're not gonna give you benefits, but we're not gonna give you the health insurance. You're still gonna get the paid time off and stuff like that. You're not gonna get health and medical benefits. That may open up a different pool of people, somebody who's retired or somebody who's older, doesn't wanna work 30 hours a week, but could do the job. Because what we're getting in all these application process is a lot of very, very, very young people who are looking to start out, who are straight out of college, or this would be their second job. And quite frankly, looking at the resumes, it's not a knock on them, but in our interview process, these are not people that are going to be able to work on their own. And that's ultimately what this person is able to do. So the way that I can see to do it is to, we'll pay you a little more, but we're gonna let you, you know, we're gonna set your hours much shorter. So you can go out and get a second job somewhere if you want, or you can, you know, be retired. The person we interviewed yesterday was retired and would have been a perfect fit, but it didn't work out. So
So I think to answer your original
I'd like to
question, that
change
you
the
could
job
change the
description.
job description to say 8 to 1 and 25 hours a week. And
Okay.
it's based on the.
Okay, why don't I put the hours in? Let's just say 25 hours.
Just 25 hours. I think 25 hours is fair, and whether it's they do 7 to 12 or 8 to 1. They come in the hour before we're open or the hour.
And how about I do
for
this
lunch.
then? I changed the rate, wage range. Right now it says 1750 to 1950. How about I change it to like 1850 to 20? To at least,
I think that's fair. Also, them not receiving benefits, as long as it's under the 28 hours, I'm not opposed to them getting a higher hourly starting rate because they aren't getting the same benefits
Right.
that.
because that costs us
that
a
costs us
lot of money.
Well, and it also costs- Yes, it also, exactly, it also costs our employees money, so that's kind of a double-edged sword, so that helps me at least process and understand why they would make a little more, because we aren't paying out of town and taxpayers' money for insurance for them, but I do still think that $20 is too high for a starting position, especially if it ends up being a college student or someone starting out.
Or you can look at it that $500 a week is very inexpensive to make sure that all of our zoning and planning is taken care of each week.
Yeah.
That's it. It seems inexpensive to me.
I mean, I think everyone should make like $40 an hour.
I would prefer the hourly week. I get
Okay, well,
what the people are.
you gave me the feedback I needed.
Yeah.
I'll change the job description, see where we go. Hopefully we'll get some new and different applicants.
Okay,
All right.
motion,
Enter executive session.
At-
8:38.
Two.
in order, for the purpose of.
You can read it.
Where are you?
We can hold
For the
it.
purpose of discussion of particular persons applying for appointment to the Agriculture Advisory Committee.
Okay, you made the motion.
No,
I
Darla
made it.
did, I came in for the assist,
You want
so
to
I'll
second
second
it?
it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you very much.
So, I'm gonna end.